Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sean LaFlock. I'm here with Scotty Hagman. This is Conversations, Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity. Scott, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. Pretty good. Trying to
Yeah,
stay warm.
good stuff, man. Yeah, I'm trying to stay
Yeah.
warm a little bit too. The mornings have been a little bit more brisk here. We've been sitting
Yeah.
in the low 50s during the morning and evening, and then it's like it gets up into the mid 60s, 70-ish.
Oh, yeah. That is
So
chilly down there.
a little
Yeah.
chilly down here, but right now it's actually warm. I don't know where this came from, but as soon as it gets over about 70 degrees, the humidity kicks in, and then it feels like hot again. So there's no getting around it.
No escape.
No escape. I actually went yesterday with a bunch of athletes of mine, and we went swimming, and the water was beautiful and all that kind of stuff, and crystal clear. This time of the year, it really changes the conditions in the ocean and that kind of stuff. So you just get basically a lake with some little bit rolling waves and that kind of stuff. So it's perfect for prepping
Oh,
for swimming and that kind of stuff for
yeah.
upcoming
'Cause you guys got to do that
competitions.
pretty soon. Yeah. I was kind of funny. Just last night before bed, we were looking at a collage of my wife's pregnancy progression and then the first year of uh, Keone's life, little guy. And
Uh huh.
the photos came up when we were there. I guess it would have been 4 years
Yeah,
ago, and we
yeah,
were down
yeah,
on the Atlantic.
yeah,
When we popped down there in Delray Beach. So
yeah, man,
I remembered
absolutely.
how warm that water was. We were talking, oh, it was just crazy.
Heck yeah, the water is definitely different here than it is on the West Coast. But yeah, it gives us an opportunity to go a little bit of a swim and prep that because actually we were supposed to be in the pool yesterday, but the heater broke in the pool at our local rec center. So
Yeah.
we're like, hey, you know what? We're about 5 minutes from the beach. Let's just go get an ocean swim in. So the lifeguards have like a kind of pseudo course with some buoys set up. So it's 100 yards out, 200 yards across to another buoy, and then back in. So we hit that, and then we did a little run into another 100 or 200 meter interval or something like that, yard interval, and then we called it a day. So just kind of get a little bit of prep going. We got about
Yeah. Nice.
4 weeks. At the end of this week will be 4 weeks left. So 4.5 weeks remaining in prep. I think probably next week will be one more accumulation, deload 3 weeks out. That will be a deload week, and then 2 weeks out, build back up a little bit that week, get the confidence up, and then that last week kind of test out some of the workouts, make sure everything's sharp, and head down there on Thursday.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's be definitely, let's do a weekly check in on how that's rolling.
Yeah, actually, speaking of which, I think it was a couple weeks ago we talked about the 5-4-3s and then the 6-5-4s. So just to kind of review, I've been doing this for front squats. I've been doing it for deadlifts, and I actually been doing it for push presses. So the progression I've been doing is 5 sets of 5, but the fives are on the minute, and then 5 sets of 4 on the minute, and then 5 sets of 3 on the minute. And just to give you an idea, for the deadlifts, I was using 295, 315, and 335. So those were the numbers. And then the second week, kept the weight the same, but then built the number of repetitions. So 6, 5, and 4. And just as a point of reference, my deadlift is probably about 405-ish. I tested it at the beginning of the cycle, which was about 2 months ago. So right now, maybe it's a little higher than that. Nothing crazy, but let's just say the percentages were about 70% for the 295. 315 would have been about 77, and then 82. Let's say so 70, 72, 77, and 82. And those very easily could have been just 70, 75, and 80. It just happened to be
Hmm.
what the weight I just threw on that week. So I did that 2 weeks of progression there on the deadlift, the front squat, and then the push press. And then this week, I did the deadlifts instead of, now that we're kind of that transformation phase, I did a heavy set of 5, built to a heavy set of 5 in like 4 or 5 sets. I had 375 for 5. And then I dropped it down, and now I'm more looking for kind of what you're going to see in competition in isolation with rest. So I was doing 225 for 20 reps for time, rest 2 minutes, and I did it for 3 sets this week. And the 225 I was able to do in 2 sets of 10 every time in under 45 seconds. So between 34 and 45 seconds for those 20 reps at 225. So good amount of volume now. So 60 reps at 225 along with the heavy 5 at 375. And I think my jumps were like 225, 275, 325, 375. So just bing, 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 bing. And that felt good. And then today I'm training and it feels good. So it's nothing that I think the accumulation prior to the 5-4-3 in terms of getting the good reps in was appropriate. And then this last 2 weeks of starting to get the touch and go reps at heavier and heavier weights, it allows me to kind of get back into competition style training and hit the reps that I needed to hit. The front squats were absolutely ridiculous and brutal this week. The 6'5" and the 4, 185, 205, and 225 left me very wobbly. But Saturday I did a tester where I had 30 squat cleans in the middle of a workout at 135, and I noticed that the barbell cycling wasn't quite as fast as it needed to be with that moderate weight. So now I'm doing something similar for the squat clean. I did this week. I did 3 sets of 10 for time at 135, resting 2 minutes between sets. So again, getting some of that CP volume or CP capacity in at not necessarily heavy weights, based upon what the competition is going to be like for me in the intermediate category.
Yeah. Nice. That all sounds money. Rather awful, some of them, but
Yeah.
I like it. And it sounds like the recovery's pretty good with it. And
Yeah, luckily the recovery's been doing well.
progressive, good, good volume
The
accumulation and movements that are going to cover a lot of bases.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's there's not a lot of like fanciness to it, but again, I think what my training is trying to do, because I'm not necessarily for me, my strengths aren't like layering complexities. For
Hmm.
me, my strength is uh, picking something, working at it, and then moving on to something else to work at based upon opportunities and testing and what comes up, but also perfecting movement patterns as well. Because for me, I'm noticing that the limiters aren't necessarily localized muscular fatigue or like breathing. It tends to be breakdowns in mechanics and then overuse of certain muscles. So like if my left SI joint or my left psoas is stuck on, then doing squat cleans is just going to be miserable for me. Same thing with if my shoulder position isn't great, doing things like muscle ups is just going to be bad.
Hmm.
Speaking of which, one of the things that I've been working on is trying to put in more volume and more competition style gymnastics play or gymnastics work, but doing it in interval base. So not testers necessarily, but things like 30 double unders, 3 muscle ups every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. So getting a
Hmm.
good amount of volume in there. And then I think after that this week, again, this has been progressive over time. This week I did 5 every minute on the minute for 5 minutes, 3 bar muscle ups into 8 strict handstand push-ups, or 6 strict handstand push-ups every minute on the minute for 5 minutes, directly into 6 chest to bar pull-ups, 10 kipping handstand push-ups for 5 minutes, directly into 8 pull-ups, 12 push-ups every minute on the minute for 5 minutes. So getting a lot of work in a short amount of time, and just getting in and getting out, and not necessarily getting too much of the fatigue from something like doing it in a tester, being really to focus on the mechanics, the pacing, the positions, the breathing during specific training elements, so that when I do get into my testers on like Fridays and Saturdays, I've done the practice, and now I can go ahead and get into game mode almost.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. I love it. It sounds great.
And then
Super sensible approach.
just trying to kind of
Yeah.
keep it basic and as little variables as possible. It's not super sexy, but I'm also becoming more aware of the things that I want to need to work on that kind of scare me. So I'm trying to do things that aren't just going to destroy me, but
Yeah.
also things that make me go, oh, I really don't want to see that, and doing that. So like yesterday, I did 50 wall balls, 50 kettlebell swings, 50 wall balls. And that's a workout where I'm scared, because I'm like, do I need to go unbroken? How do I break? It's so many reps. It's just so many contractions. And I think that just saying that is my biggest
Mm.
heal, is
Hmm.
just multiple contractions, just lots and lots of contractions. And the more I let go and just kind of practice that and suck at it first, the more I know that when I get into game time, that is what's going to kind of separate me from where I was before versus where I am now. Is just lots and lots of contractions and just getting comfortable with being able to do a lot of work at those moderate loads.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, money, outstanding,
Yeah. How's training going for you there,
beautiful.
Scotty?
I'm in a transition phase,
Cool.
so yeah, just starting to get under heavier, actual heavier loads instead of doing this kind of more, kettlebell, asymmetrical, bilateral stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
things have progressed pretty good. Like first goes feel pretty good, and like I felt more solid at the loads, and they didn't feel challenging. And some other, I played around with extra range of motion skater squats, which I never tried before, and I was able
Mm,
to do them off of like a 10-inch box full range for reps, which was
nice.
was pretty interesting because
Yeah.
I'd never gone below my floor level before.
Yep.
So that some of the movement work I had built that in, and getting back to a little more aggressively training the planche again after taking some time to just slow cook it a little bit. So it slipped some from where it was last year,
Mm-hmm.
but rebuilding to try and go after that rolling on bike goal this coming year. Yeah, and then yeah, today was supposed to be a training day, but it's been kind of a long week. I had a super high volume Tuesday trying to get the final clip for my video in. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
training morning. It was
A
the
happy
final day of.
belated, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's kind of erroneous because my birthday was actually a couple months ago, but
Uh-huh.
I did a bulk of the filming in and around it,
Yes.
and that's why I called it. I was just waiting to get everything done.
Yep.
But I yeah, it was my training day. I trained early, and it was a fairly gnarly because I was kind of maximal test on almost all the weights. So that took a little out of me. And then I was trying to get a better version of the final trick. I rode a hard 90 minutes,
Uh-huh.
probably well like into the threshold range of aerobically and then high skill neurological demand. I
Yeah.
got one piece of it. The other piece frustrated me. I came back. I stopped when my battery died. I came back. I realized I had another gap because some clients wanted to move. I went back for a third crack, filmed again. So anyway, at the end of that day, I've kind of been paying the price for Tuesday.
I hear
And
you.
I tested like garbage today, so I'm going to do a recovery workout, a little mobility, a little light aerobics, and um, concentric strength and jumping, and then a little tiny bit of planche stimulation, and then a little relaxed stretch and
Call her
call
a
it a
day.
day.
Call it a
Yeah,
day.
no
Yeah.
riding.
Yeah. It's interesting because my recovery has actually been fairly good. And I think all the stuff that I was doing leading up into this phase has kind of uh, worked out very nicely. The gut healing stuff that I've been doing, the supplemental protocols that I'm on with my functional medicine doc. Just also with the seasonal change as well. Like you're not having that stress of demand of just getting smoked with the weather all the time. So this is always a very good time of the year for training for me. And I know in the
Yeah,
past when we work together, that's like when the PRs start to roll in.
this was yeah. I remember that.
Like
Yeah,
I think I remember hitting 285 for hand clean, squat clean, uh, jerk
some
PR.
kind of complex. Yeah.
Yep, and then like power cleaning and split jerking 275 or something like that on a minute. So yeah, I mean like, and especially with some AM PM sessions. This week I'm doing 4 doubles, maybe even 5. So AM, aerobic work, PM, a little bit more stimulatory stuff.
Hmm.
This morning I did. I coached morning, so I was up at 5:30, a little before 5:30. Coached until 10. Took a nap for like 15, 20 minutes. Got up and then got after it. I did 5 minute countdown clock of a 40 calorie. I started off with a 400-meter run. And this is actually something Eric Cressy kind of reminded me of. And we've done this before a little bit, I think, where we do the farmer squats, where like you'll do a farmer's, like a back rack carry, then you'll do some squats, turn around, and then you'll walk it back and then do more squats. But I've seen Eric
Hmm.
Cressy do it with a trap bar. So I threw, I think, like 165 on the trap bar, did 10 deadlifts, then did a 10-meter carry, dropped it, turned around, 10 deadlifts, then did another carry. So again, working on a lot of contractions and while under duress. So with the 400-meter leading in, 5-minute countdown clock, it ended up being about 6 rounds of working on 60 deadlifts with a trap bar with the carries. So in these little sessions, I try to stay away from conventional movements. So D balls, trap bars with carries and that kind of stuff. Toes to ring I was doing. So I was doing
Oh
three
yeah.
5-minute countdowns just to get some aerobic work, but also working on non-traditional movements so that I can kind of, if something is thrown at us where we're carrying sandbags or we're doing some kind of non-traditional movement, I have some outside of the box stuff, not just like, uh, just only power cleans and snatches
Right.
and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Totally. Yeah. It's good for recovery. So you're getting some different patterns. They're not overusing the crap out
It's
of
a
the
very good
exact
point.
same movement, and then also exposure in case some unusual things are thrown at you. So
Yeah, that's a very good point. How just varying the implement, you are doing a lower body pulling movement, but it's not nearly the same with a trap bar as is say with a deadlift or say like a kettlebell swing or something like that.
yep. Yeah. Yeah. I've become a real big fan of more organic movements is a lot of the conditioning type work. And for people that aren't, if you're competing in the sport of CrossFit or some
Mm,
variant of that, obviously you know, certain movements are sport specific, I guess. But when someone's doing it for general health or conditioning for not a competitive fitness event,
yep.
I tend to go more organic now just because I think it mimics life and, I think it's a great opportunity to hit different planes of movement and things. So whether that's sandbags or
Yeah.
carries or a variety of less traditional kettlebell movements, or we've been using the maces, the shoulder rocks
Ooh, yeah.
from Kabuki Strength. We got a bunch of those. We're using those in our classes now, starting to implement them in. And then I've always got a full set of heavy clubs, which I've had since, day one. So doing a little more with those again.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I think I mentioned that my fiance Laura got a mace. She got like a 10-pound mace she got from On It,
Oh
and
yeah.
fantastic. I mean, if just some basic movements that we did. The biggest thing is just doing the what do you call those? Just
Mace
mace
360
mace
is typically
360.
what, yeah.
Okay, those of hitting long head tricep. Whew, awesome, awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that really mimics that.
No. Yeah. And driving that kind of scapular upward rotation and coordination from side to side.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, a little lateral bracing and, timing and, um, yes,
Yeah,
it's really good stuff.
she works on a weekly basis with Dr. James Spencer, who he works with a lot of high level athletes from I think equestrian riders to golfers and all that kind of stuff. Has very little weights like traditional weights that he does in his facility. Um, Balance work, um, off center work, proprioceptive stuff, things that are really refined for athletes and really like connecting the dots and that kind of stuff while along with a background in chiropractic and massage therapy. So addressing certain things, removing
Hmm.
restrictions, readdressing it. I think there's definitely a time and a place for that. I think having someone who's very well versed in it, or learning it yourself and then practice some of those things is
Hmm.
very beneficial. I think it would be challenging to kind of just give that to somebody and have them
Oh
do it
yeah.
in the gym. I think you kind of have to have
Yeah.
eyes on you.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things I think you have to earn your way toward. I mean, I think everyone can benefit from, kind of three-dimensional movement patterns. But
Yeah,
I mean, think of how, if you get a Gen Pop client in that has trouble with something like a basic hip hinge or a squat.
yeah,
I mean, how in the world are you going to teach a three-dimensional movement when you have compensated shoulders and neck and elbows? And that was something I found in the early years. I mean, because I had the clubs even day one, 2005, we
mm-hmm.
had the set of clubs in the gym, and uh, it's just, yeah, you have to have really good movement potential before you can take advantage of that, really.
Yep, yep.
And but for those that are ready, I think it is really valuable.
Yeah, so I'm thinking probably in this next off season, I'm going to try to get um, more and more done with some mace work with some kettlebells, but also the Indian clubs.
Hmm.
Those ones are I've only heard great things about them. And
Yeah.
again, and we're talking about three-dimensional shoulder position stuff, so I'm really going to go after that. Even like probably pick up an Indo board and play
Yeah.
around on that because I just know that my proprioception through my feet is just terrible at this point.
Yeah. I think that's super valuable too. I mean, I did, but pre CrossFit, I worked with a coach, John Davies, that had me spend as part of kind of an extended warm up. I believe it was usually 10 minutes on an Indo
Oh
board
wow, cool.
in a variety of patterns. There was a time of just intentionally rocking and squatting, and I got it where I was doing like the Cossacks on it and stuff. And
Yeah.
then you had to walk it lengthwise and
Yep. Walk it
do
out, walk it
controlled
back.
jumps, different things. Great, great foot stimulus.
Yep.
And then another point, I think that the Indian clubs and the lighter club bells or steel clubs, whatever you want to call them, could have for the fitness athlete, besides you know, getting us out of pure sagittal plane movement. But one problem is that we don't have modalities for developing kind of a more aerobic potential upper body musculature that much, right? Even a push up becomes, nobody can sit there and do push ups for 10 minutes straight, let's say. That's
Mm,
just not going to happen.
mm.
And however, you can swing the clubs in a variety of patterns
Yeah.
for 10 minutes continuously. And
Heck yeah.
in my early CrossFit years, I did this. There was briefly brief history on the clubs. Club swinging, because clubs are one of those oldest weight training implement there is.
Yeah.
In the Olympics and its kind of earlier incarnations back 100 years ago until I believe the 1930s, club swinging was actually an official Olympic event. There's a
Hmm.
two-handed version, which was kind of like what we would think of as a kettlebell swing, but they go behind your back and then you explode them forward, back and forth.
Yep.
And then there was a single arm one where it went around your head, behind your head, and around your head in front. And
Yep.
these were the two club events, and they were 10-minute, basically AMRAPs. You could rest them on your shoulders to rest,
Mm-hmm.
but you couldn't set them down in any way, or you were done at that point. And there was briefly a resurgence of that, and I trained for that. And you work up to doing it with 10 minutes straight with 25-pound clubs, which
Mm-hmm.
took a while. And so this was also as my early exposure to CrossFit. And uh, I will say I never quite had the muscular endurance in later years of training more specifically as I had in some of those early years when I was doing all that club work on top of it.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was because you can actually, get more aerobic adaptations. Now, I don't think you
Yeah.
need to use 25 pounds. I think it'd be better to use a lighter one than something you can move continuously through.
What do you tend to use for your club work? Like 10 pounds or something like that, or even lighter?
5 or 10 would probably be
Yeah.
what you would need for kind of an aerobic stimulus. Maybe more single arm type movements, but where if one is moving only, the other one is kind of still
Yep.
engaged holding.
Yep.
So you're getting a little restriction, and it'd be super interesting to do like, Moxie monitor and kind of muscle oxygenation level
Yeah.
during like club circuits in like say the deltoids, for
Yeah.
example. Um, so anyway, something I might want to try to explore. Uh,
Yeah.
I just,
I think that'd be a great thing, especially if it was something like off season wise or done as recovery. I think there'd be huge, huge, huge benefits from that. I mean, just look at it anecdotally. Like if you see a person who's able to kind of like really swing clubs, you just see just thick, meaty hands and forearms, and that just right away you're like, this person, they can get stuff
that,
done.
yeah. Well, and that is the other thing. The grip strength that you can build with that is rather phenomenal. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, there was another story. Yeah, when I was still fairly new to strength training, I had probably lifted for at least 5 or 6 years before I discovered CrossFit. But my deadlifts were always, when I would go to max a deadlift, it was always a grip failure kind of thing.
Yep.
Like I felt like, I just can't hang on to it. I probably could pick it up. And
Mm-hmm.
then I had done, my first however many months of club training.
Yep.
And then the next time max a deadlift came along, it was no problem. I went up quite a bit, and even at my max, I was holding on just fine. It was, at this point, posterior chain somewhere was the limiter instead.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I think it would carry over to a lot of things. I may be able to actually do the Moxie test. I actually kind of reconnected
Huh.
with my old coach, Mark McLaughlin, actually
Yep.
has a Moxie. And as he's mainly working for Omega Wave and not actually doing any particular coaching, and said he had not been using had no reason to use the Moxie anytime recently, I might be able to
Snag it on them.
snag it at least for a little while and do some study.
Where did you get your clubs from, Scott?
So the all the steel clubs I have from a 45 pounder down to fives were the RMAX or CST club bells.
Okay.
Now I know On It makes a good set. There's a bunch of others that have come along. I've literally had the entire set since 2003 or four,
Uh-huh.
and they're still kicking around in here. And we've got
Nice.
a few extras along the way. I've made a pair of it's between 2.5 to 3 pound Indian clubs, which
Uh-huh.
get used a lot, but I made them out of sand and PVC pipe because they were still like $80 for a 2 or 3 pound set. And at least, I was going to see how much they were used. If they got used a ton, then I'm like, okay, I'll suck up and
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
some.
yeah.
However, I did just see last week that I think on Amazon now you can get, it might be the On It ones, I'm not sure, for
Uh-huh.
like 19.95 for one of those light sets. So
Oh, nice,
much,
man.
much more affordable. So that just
Do you
might be some.
would you recommend doing something a little bit lighter, like a two or three, or do you think 5 and 10 would be better if you were gonna
Um,
recommend
I
something for
really
somebody?
like the Indian Club, especially learning some of the movements. And there's a ton of kind of FRC based
Mm-hmm.
axial rotation work that you can do with them that is super beneficial.
Yep.
Rotator cuff type work that those light ones I think are invaluable. I probably use them and use them with clients more than the heavier ones. However,
Yeah.
with that said, there are people that we do some of the heavier stuff with too, but
Cool.
they have the foundation. They've worked up from the little ones. So
Yeah, man. That's pretty cool. I think I'll have to look into that a little bit. Maybe we'll do a little early Christmas shopping for some Indian clubs and get after it a little bit with those suckers. And again, I think that's also a nice piece of equipment that you can get outside with too. You don't have to be in the gym. You can throw those things in your
yeah,
trunk, get out to the beach or get out to the park and just swing those around for a little bit. You don't have to make it like for time, but it's just
yeah,
accumulate some reps, feel it out, be organic. You could probably do some
totally.
flow work with it as well.
Once you know a number of movements, yeah, you can sort of freestyle flow it. It's pretty awesome. Like I said, super portable. You can bring them anywhere. It's a great excuse to get outside and do a little recovery training or just play basically.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. So we will probably meet next week, I imagine, for a little Christmas
Pre-Christmas, yeah.
pre-Christmas little get together here, and then we'll assess what's going on from there with everybody, what's going on, that kind of thing. But you got anything else for today,
Yeah,
there, Scotty?
I think that'll do it. I'm about to go hit my recovery workout here and swing some light clubs actually as we
There you
speak.
go, man. I like it. Okay. Well, I'm Sean LaFlock. You can get me at Sean at CrossFitDiaryBeach.com.
I'm Scott Hagnes. You can get me at Scott at CrossFitPortland.com.
Beautiful, Scotty. I'll take care, buddy. I'll talk to you
All
next
right.
week.
Take care. Yeah, have a good week.
Later.